Well, hello. I don't really know where to start, so I'll just start. Uh, Background image here is taken from Grand Theft Auto 5, and I drove around Grand Theft Auto 5 looking for the mission of Melrose, and here it is, right here. Now, the level of detail is so ridiculous, and in the game, don't know if you know of the game Grand Theft Auto. Uh, it's called the Epsilon Society, and it is essentially, see the guy there. Oh, wait a minute, I'm backwards here. That guy, this guy right here. He's a Epsilon, a society guy. Now that uh, I remember building that. I remember building that sign. I remember standing on that guardrail and fastening all of the stuff to the concrete there. And underneath was Golden Apple Comics, and in the game they use the name Flickr Comics. I'm constricted in space right now. I'm in my studio in New Orleans, and it's kind of small, so if I do that, oh, my hand disappears. Or if I step up to the mixing board, then, you know, that happens. I renamed the channel to N Theta because, oh, I know you guys have shitloads of questions, and you will have an opportunity to ask them in the comments. Uh, but I also have a lot to cover, and tonight, well, it's 11:36 p.m. September 22nd, and tomorrow is my dad's birthday. Not not the one remaining father that I have, my stepfather Ira, who still somehow is alive. Um, but my biological father, who I disconnected from sometime around 2006. And so my heart is heavy. Also, Travis's father, Ed McGee. Um, I watched him pass. That wasn't that long ago. His grandson, Travis's son, got his eagle yesterday. No, why am I saying yesterday? Jesus, no. He got it Monday. Encoding overloaded. Turn down video settings. Fuck. Alright. Hopefully that there wasn't a whole lot of skipping going on. I had a constant bit rate set, which means that the video doesn't lose any frames at all. But sometimes doing that puts an extra strain on the machine. Um, my nephew received his eagle, and he's the first eagle since my brother Mark in our little circle tribe, whatever. It was extremely important to me, but it was even more important to Ed, um, who was my dad too. I'm lucky enough to have had three dads, and two of them were good. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Um, but I watched him die, and it hurt really bad, and it hurt even worse or as bad to not go to Corey's Eagle, because the reason Travis was not there to see his father die was because his father made him promise. to go to this Eagle event that was happening that particular day. So it wasn't when he received his Eagle, but it was that important to him. And I'm not sure if it was as important to Travis. I think it was very important to Travis. Um, but so important as to not be by your father in his final moments. I don't know. And Cynthia and I are back together. We're in New Orleans as we had planned years ago. And we were going to go to the Eagle ceremony, and that morning I just was not right. Now, I know now that this was more or less a sort of a major depressive meltdown kind of thing. That same week that Ed died, another close family friend uh, died after a quick diagnosis. Both of them died very quickly after their diagnoses. And it was a blessing, but also very difficult for everyone. Um, and both of their names was Eddie Michael and Edward McGee, who was a very kind man and considered me his son as much as any of the others. And I feel foolish and guilty and naive that I didn't realize just how much he felt that way. Because he was very comforted when I arrived. And I'll just say that after his wife comforted him and she knew that he could hear her, it that was it. He was gone after about an hour of me being there. And I'd made it just in time from the previous death. And these are two really good men. So it's 11:42 now, and this isn't a video game. Like, I used to stand out there on this balcony and just lean over and smoke cigarettes, and there were tables. There actually were lights, even. I mean, the detail that Rockstar put into this is just incredible. Um, the coloring of the sign, the yellow down to the red, absolutely perfect. Insane amount of detail. I started doing some podcasting. I just started doing a podcast on Fallen Earth, the game that I practiced Scientology in. And this year it was relaunched as a free to play. And turns out our S2, which is, I was a Scientologist when I started playing this game, and there was another organization, gaming group, that I joined, and they were I found as a Scientologist thinking there were some very there were a lot of inefficiencies. But I knew how to, from being on staff, I knew how to lay low until an opportunity arises, and then you can advance just by merit alone. And what do I mean by that? Um, in these kind of, well, at least I say in these kind of like I'm an expert. In my situation at Melrose, and I would presume that it's similar in other places at an org or other missions or even flag or pack base, that if someone is having ethics issues or is having problems or is not producing what they are supposed to produce, whatever ridiculous, outlandish, impossible thing that is, their juniors, people who are underneath them, can quickly advance and or at least move up a peg. So this group in the game was dominating all of the resources in the game, and I was looking for these resources, and I inhabited the space where they were protecting the resources, and I would continue to get the resources regardless of whether they killed me or not. I didn't care because the resources were that valuable. But my persistence brought the wrath of hell with it, because there was a player who ended up recruiting me, um, who would camp me for days at this cloner where you clone at. So, shortening this story, I joined that group after paying rent in the area for a while, and they decided that I was more valuable in their organization than just paying rent, which they were right. I started to analyze reports. I would generate my own reports. I don't have any of them. Sometimes the reports were just mental notes or notes, but and point out mistakes, point out inefficiencies, bring these up to people above me, and I also generated resources, maps, a waypoint system, ways for nonverbal communication to occur, less communication chatter whenever there are people in your territory. Signals and signs, signs and signals. Um, so, um, and I didn't really think that that would lead to any kind of leadership stuff. Uh, and ultimately, it didn't in that organization. Ultimately, um, after some political stuff in game, which this will, I know what I'm talking about. It may sound like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're talking about some video game. It's a video, Grand Theft Auto. This other game that I'm talking about is called Fallen Earth. I'm not talking about Grand Theft Auto. I'm talking about Fallen Earth. But it is kind of cool that this Vinewood's Epsilon Society, that they took the time to really. I don't know where they got these photos. Only photo I know of is on clambake.com. But I don't know what to do with myself right now. I talked to Chris Shelton a little while ago, and he needed a break. He said that, his subscribers were like, man, you've been going hard for a while. And I've been thinking that same thing after a year of him publishing, because of the rate of he was publishing so much. Myself, I was experiencing a hell ride, as Oh, it says encoding overloaded again. If it keeps saying it, I'm going to cut the video and splice it together, just like I did the first one. I don't see what the big problem is with the encoding. I mean, the computer is quite sufficient for this task, especially considering this is a low resolution camera and I'm not triggering this every all the time. Oh, I missed it. Okay, I missed the big boom. What am I trying to say here? So, there is an academic study. There are academic studies about sociology, all right? Sociological behavior, behavior of groups, factions, whatever. Uh, that makes sense, but I wasn't really aware of until our S2, my friend, uh, who I know in real life as well as in game. And S2 is just intelligence. He said, "Hey, by the way, there's a guy in our clan who writes for Springer Publications, which is a academic publisher, and he's got a document that he wants to share, but he can't share it yet because he's about to retire, and but he's wrapping up some things about uh, various projects he'd been working on, and Fallen Earth was a long-term project of his because of the specific story of Earth being destroyed. Now, does this sound familiar? Um, the threat of Earth being destroyed and the need to align yourself with the right people. It's so. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying, but um, think about it. If you you know are familiar with my work, I would not call this work. Um, I've taken long break. I took a very long break. I needed to. I got my surgeries. Um, for the sake of keeping the length of the videos down, if you have questions, ask. But in 2017, after the GoFundMe, um, that allowed me to have a vehicle to get around to try to schedule and or go to medical procedures or doctors or referrals um, that I needed after the initial surgery that I had in 2016. At the same time, the divorce that I went through, or was, yeah, at that point it was over. From 2014 to 2017 was my divorce, and it was a hellish period where my children were living in a safe house, which consisted of not much more than concrete floors and drywall. There was no running water, and there was no bathrooms, and there was no kitchen, and there was a couch. I was only able to inspect it after the divorce was over. And I'm sure, positive, that it was cleaned up. My mother had been there prior and made some statements about the condition and quality of it, and it was the driving force for me working as much as I did, stressing as much as I did. Uh, maybe this is true, maybe it's not, but there were more than one doctor there. There was more than one doctor that said it was likely stress plus the smoking that caused the tissue to just get so aggressive. So, uh, and my children were 1 and 3. From 1 and 3 to 3 and 5, they lived in that condition. And when it was all over with, there was a third party, um, whom I've talked about on this channel, who uh, had a private hearing, and essentially what my ex-wife did was held my kids at with a knife to their throat, is what it feels like. All right, she never did that. Of course not. She loves her children, just probably in a different way that I don't understand. Um, but she does love them. But the effect that it created was very much like her holding both of our kids at gunpoint or with a knife at their throats. Gimme, 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 gimme. And I didn't have anything to give. I had to fight because the accusations that she made, that I was a rapist and a child molester and a drug dealer, and I hadn't been employed in years, and I never made any money, and uh, that I did drugs all the time, which at that particular hearing where they made all these allegations, they said, well, we want a hair follicle test today, and you're going to pay for it. I said, that's fine. If I fail it, um, then you have to, or if I pass it, sorry, if I pass it, you will pay. I will take a test at any time. You could have me take a test 3 times a day, and I'll pay for it if I fail this test. But if I pass this test, you gotta have to pay for this every time you want me tested. I don't mind being tested every time. Anyways, got the hair. Nothing. Nothing. Um, this attorney of hers pulled in some strokes, and as the doctors told me, stress kills. Well, I would only imagine that if you're hurling these accusations around at innocent people, that at some point your conscience is going to get the best of you. You're going to fucking be uneasy about that. It's going to cause some stress. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I believe in karma. It's probably the only reason I'm alive. No. The only reason I'm alive is sleeping in the bed right now. So I see my kids when I can. Um, which is not infrequent. It's just not like your typical 50-50, which I fought and worked 3 jobs for 18 months, then went to the post office, and that was when I got sick. So um, when I was doing the GoFundMe, there was so much going on. Like I couldn't even begin to cover it in one video. But I just wanted to tonight. It's 11:59. Timing is everything. So this is for Dad. Um, I'm curating my old videos so that they have a chronology and sort of make some sense. Um, I'm moving all of my music to another channel, and it's probably just as simple and easy as Googling Devontae LaFleur. Why that name? Why am I using a pseudonym? Because that is the male version of what my name would have been had my mother been allowed to, you know, had she not had to hide from her entire family, which is impossible, but I mean, they did for 8 years or so, that I was not Ira's son. You know, they told everyone that Travis died, and then I was the lucky number three. And as a father who is now experiencing alienation and things that actually, like, over time, when you establish a pattern, encoding overloaded. All right. My ex wife had a really good attorney, but she was not a good attorney. She knew how to establish patterns within the systems, multiple systems, government systems, and civil systems, to create a pattern that would continue to be the way that it is long past the court date because of the fear and the repercussions of what her client was willing to do and invoke. Um, so, because right off the bat, it was the nuclear option. You're a child molester, you're a rapist, you've raped your wife, you beat your children, you beat your wife, you have never had a job, you don't have gainful employment, none of the bills are in your name, uh, you don't, you are a de facto loser. That was their argument. And to and it actually, because I was working in the legal community, I'd run a political campaign for a district attorney candidate. You can say all that you want that people don't talk about private matters at work, but these proceedings and this docket went through offices that I had worked in. And the paralegals, yeah, they're like a little steno pool. They'll gossip. They'll say, "Oh my God, did you see that docket?" Oh. And the word gets around. So that essentially ruined my then career, where I was doing social media marketing for uh, attorneys. Which was actually turned out to be not the social media gig that I got after that paid way better. So whatever. But it's the looks when you go into court, and they can't really size it up, and it's not just the judge and the attorneys and the client and the plaintiff and the defendant. In this case, she sued me for divorce, which was, why all these is massive. Like, this is why, because what justifies a lawsuit has to be pretty egregious. So the things that were said were incredibly egregious. So this situation ended with Ira um, buying her a house. He bought her a house. And you might think, wow, what a nice guy. This is the same man who told me, I don't care how hard it gets, I don't care how shitty you feel, I don't give a fuck about how you feel. It's all about the kids, and you hold on and you hang on until you get those kids. And then he does this at the last fucking moment. Genius. But it wasn't genius. It was, in his mind, what he would have defined as weakness. And um, I was devastated. Absolutely devastated. What the fuck happened? My attorney came back and was crying, hugging me, and I'm like, is this real? Do attorneys do this? Do they even give a shit? I'd paid this guy a lot of money over the 18-month period that I was employing his services. And I just couldn't, just didn't process, didn't compute. He said, I did the best that I could. I got you 50-50. But what that means, he didn't know. It's probably why he was upset. Maybe he knew what it meant. Because what it is that the protective order encoder and overloaded. Okay, good. It's not overloaded anymore. What it did was it allowed my ex-wife to constantly keep me away from my kids through use of my parents as facilitators. Now, my supervised visitation was over with within 6 months, or something like that, maybe a year. Um, but the facilitation was still there, and that is still that's still the scenario. So, uh, my dad, who was born this day in whatever year it was, I don't even know his birthday. I talked to Mom and she said how old he would be, but I forgot. Um, I moved here in 2019 on his birthday. September 23rd, 2019 is when I moved here. That is not, I'm in New Orleans, and that doesn't mean that I had a place. I just was living in a sunroom, and I was still dealing with, it was before the second and the third surgeries, which are the only, that's all that I've had so far. And second surgery, like I could walk again for more than an hour without like inflicting massive amounts of pain on my body. Mainly my right hip, my lower back here, and then I would get nerve stuff all over, and it was excruciating. Um, and it had to do with standing because the type of cancer that I had and that they operated on, it was a lot of tissue on the right gonad, you know. Nads. Sorry, I'm immature. Um, the extra weight. I mean, there was almost the first surgery was a partial epididyectomy. He said he removed 2 pounds. That doesn't make sense to me. Uh, that can't be right. But I have the op report. I can look. Maybe it's 2 ounces. I don't know. And he said there was quite a bit left there still to remove, but he said he removed what he thought was causing the problem. And it just made it worse because he had also shortened the length of the vesicle, which caused some where you cut a nerve and a vesicle, and that scar tissue that didn't it was so scarred that blood couldn't really get to the gonad. So oxygen could get to the gonad, but blood itself was not really making it there. and that was causing a lot of pain. So um, that was the first surgery to port scan detected. Um, Everyone says you're paranoid until the thing happens that you said was going to happen, and then they're like, "Did that just happen?" Yes, it did. Um, I wanted to reconnect and let everyone know I'm okay. I have gone back from time to time checking the Aaron video, and I see, I have seen people asking what happened to these guys. Are they okay? Specifically asking about me and if I was okay. And so that I'm reconnecting, and I moved all of my music shit to a different place. So now this is the place um, where I will talk about things related to the weird cult that I was in. And the as far as the name, let's do this again. I love this. I still love this music. Back to what I was saying. I'm here. I survived. There's a story for sure. There's a long ass story. Um, just looking at my body and hearing my voice. As you see, I've got a vape. I'm not smoking anymore. It's been almost a year, and I'm down from having two pins that I could swap out to just like having a pin and then putting it up. And then when I want it, I go get it. So uh, it's made a big difference. Obviously, smoking the way that I smoked. Go see a staff member smoke. I mean, it's just chain smoking, chain smoking. You smoke, 10 cigarettes in one cigarette break. Talking about battle plans and GI and NBSTIs, all these words that you might know by now. Um, my dad would be uh, I think he would be proud of my kids, of his grandkids, of Corey, who just got his eagle, of Travis for being the dad that he is and the husband that he is. Um, and these are, I don't know if you've noticed, maybe. I could see a lot of, like, hey man, get to the point. That my very first video, someone had commented and said, if you put it on 2 times speed, which was the max at the time, maybe it still is, I don't know. He sounds like Robert Downey Jr. and you still get all the information because he talks so slow. And but it's like Robert Downey Jr. And that's a cool little hack for people up, if you live up in like Connecticut or something like, and you're used to people talking fast all the time and like, hey man, I can't do that. I Everything is slow for me. I did a lot of drugs for a very long time in a short period. Well, no, in a relatively long period of time in an early part of my life. So, yeah, I gotta go with the flow. Um, and the turns out I was right. When I was a kid, I was like, "Hey, this stuff will help with PTSD, which is what Dwayne has." I tried to tell my dad to smoke weed, and he's like, "I can't. It's illegal. I can't be getting smoke." And he was right because you don't mess with weed in Calcasieu Parish, District 14 in Louisiana. They treat that shit like it's cocaine. They put people in prison for 15 years for having an ounce. So I'm here. I'm back. I have a studio. I have a record. If you haven't checked out the record, search Devontae LaFleur, and it's called Pain and Suffering. And let me know what you think. Comment on it. It's published on YouTube, uh, Amazon. I mean, it's everywhere. So, you know, go check it out on whatever your preferred platform is. Uh, if you like. Travis and I worked on it in 2021 and released it in 2022 with Rick Nelson. Not Ricky Nelson, but uh, his middle name is way awesome. Rick Gunnar Nelson. He's a bassist and a multi instrumentalist. Graduated from uh, North Texas State University. They call it North Texas University, I think. And it's a premier jazz and classical school. Um, but his work started uh, quickly after graduation. He started working professionally with Polyphonic Spree and toured with them and Bowie and David Bowie, right? Wow. And um, and the Afghan Wigs. He became friends with David Rosser and joined the Wigs. So we worked with him on this record, and we were trying to put together. I've got material for 3, 4 more. We're developing 20 songs right now, and it's just I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Um, Not just music. Got this. Got a gaming website, a uh, podcast that is just now starting about this sociology study that was done in the game that I played, where and this guy who wrote this study, by the way, who did this study and wrote this book, Convergence and Divergence in Virtual Worlds. His name is William Sims Bainbridge, and he actually infiltrated the Process Church in '78 with a guy named Stark. That's his last name. And I remember seeing that on a cult documentary. After they left, Process Church was an offshoot of Scientology and some other things. After they left, you couldn't do that anymore. The APA made rules like, look, don't go into cults trying to pose as cult members to try and figure out what was wrong with them. Um, and then he found himself researching video game sociology. Um, and there's a lot of gaming groups that are very much like cults. Fist of the Empire, the group that I joined in Fallen Earth, was a cult. And I saw it as a cult. And I used what I had learned in Scientology and everything else that I've learned. Not just because Scientology is just an amalgam of a bunch of stuff that is tweaked and adjusted for someone's particular brand of control. All right. So in this case, Scientology uses information that is known about. Um, you could argue how efficiently they use it, because it's going to depend from place to place. Um, but if you had a psychological organization, like say the counseling agency that I go to, doing this sort of thing for money, man, like to extract everything that you can, because that's the sole purpose of Scientology: is extract all value and just be sure to keep your 8C in, which means control, right? Extract all value, keep control, keep control. Take money, control, control, money, money, control, money. So you can customize this shit however you want. And so in this toxic cult that was responsible for uh, a lot of terrible things, not just in game but in real life. I don't know if I should go into those things maybe at some point, but uh, yeah, that group still exists, but in a much different way. In fact, they modeled a lot of what they do after what came after, which was whenever the time came after the situations were created, and it was essentially like an espionage thing. Um, there was when you do espionage, it's constant. Like it evolves, it adapts, everything changes. Like ask a spy what their plan is. Like they don't even fucking know yet. Like things change incrementally from moment to moment to moment to moment. That's why being in present time, and I don't mind using that term. There's a lot of terms you'll hear me use now more comfortably than I ever did before, because I have extracted the bullshit from, like, the loaded language. Now, if someone wants to pay to have Steve Hassan come and evaluate me for that, that would be awesome, because I'd like to know. I think I did it. Um, the theology practices that were stolen from everywhere in the world that Hubbard used to implement his control are still valid philosophies in certain ways. Uh, I very much like the Tao Te Ching, the Buddha Sutras, the Diamond Sutras, the Bible. Um, yes, there are things in the Bible that I like. I love Psalms. Um, I like the book of Matthew. Um, I like to read, you know, and I like philosophy. And I think being human is so incredibly interesting and unlikely that you get to be a human, that it's worth using this brain to think about as much as freaking possible. Maybe that's why I'm so into audio. It's confusing. It's a challenge, and it's interesting to me. So back to the title one last time, and then we'll end it. This has got to be like an hour-long video. In theta is a play on words. In theta in Scientology means, am I looking in the right direction? Yeah. Okay. In theta. I'm not going to give you verbal tech. And here's verbal tech. Okay. Come on, Steve. He's still indoctrinated. It just won't wear off. No, I feel that there are parts of me just will never be the same, and certain conceptual uh, like exercises will never be the same. They're constructs. You understand that these are. Maybe you don't understand. I'm just saying. When you develop a mental construct, which I define a mental construct as like a concrete idea in your head. And it can be permanent and it can be temporary. But a lot of constructs are temporary. Like you get sad, like today. I'm sad. I took 2 naps. It's 12:24 a.m. and I'm not in bed asleep. This whole week I've been getting up in the morning and producing stuff. But not today because I have this temporary construct that's probably triggered by, you know, the anniversary of my father and the death of my other father and my nephew earning his eagle. I still haven't been able to watch the video that Travis posted. I'm avoiding. I had a meltdown Sunday, which meant I was just crying on the bed, and but I also had a pretty steep trigger when Cynthia came in and said, "I'm going to start referring to her as dead girl." She said something, and I didn't know she was there, and I had a very visceral reaction. Um, I know where that comes from, so like, it's okay. Just let me cry, and I've got a significant, pretty significant uh, meltdown coming soon. It's gonna be good, I suppose, but there are production things that I'm doing that like if I don't do them, then the meltdown won't happen. That's one thing. Like, because I'll feel like I have to do it. So I have to get through this so that I can get through this other thing. I don't. It doesn't have to make sense. Uh, I've learned that in therapy. I've been in therapy for shit. Well, I've always followed the court orders, so um, I've been in therapy since 2015. Not, but consistently since 2017. Been in therapy consistently, and so just wanted to get back in touch. Just wanted to let you know what happened, why and say, look, the channel moved all of my music to another place. If you want to check that out, you guys didn't come here for music originally, so I moved all that for convenience. And it helps me sort of like think about things that I might want to say. And there are some things that I have been thinking about to say. So I know I said it was the last time before, but in theta is a play on words from those definitions I showed you earlier. And in my definition of this in theta is that it's sort of like a play, like I'm a theta state or an alpha state, but generally between theta, alpha, and beta. You know, you know, being in a theta state or an alpha state is a wonderful thing, but beta state, um, you got to check yourself every now and then. And a beta state is a good place for that. Um, I hope you understand. Maybe I put something up there while I was saying it that explains it perfectly, and now I'm just standing here like a buffoon. So, Um, yeah. Until next time.